Okay, I'm doing a little video here on kind of a little bit of background of the production for the Bring Me to Life. As a little background, I'm using a Mac Pro 5, 1. It's a dual processor, total 12 cores, Xeon processors. I have 96 gigabyte of ECC RAM. I'm using a AMD graphics card. The computer's running Monterey version, and I'm using Cubase as my what we call a DAW, digital audio workstation. And there are different DAW softwares, Pro Tools, Logic Pro, Studio One, and there's also Reaper, and there's some softwares that are more geared for musicians like Ableton, that level. But I'm using Cubase. I've used Cubase for I guess going on 13, 14 years. Started at version 4, now it's up to version 14. So I use it because I can get around really quick, especially if I'm going to do recording the bass, and there's nothing worse than getting set up, ready to record the bass, but then you got to mess around with software just to get it to record. So I don't really have to think too much when I'm using the software. Now the song, Bring Me to Life, starts with a piano. We could start here. I'll just play a sample. Okay, that's piano, but I didn't record a real piano. I recorded what's called MIDI data. MIDI data comes from this MIDI keyboard. This is an Akai MPK 49, which means it has 49 keys. Standard pianos has 88 keys. But you can cover different ranges in those octaves by just switching different switches. So anyway, this keyboard connects to the computer by USB. Everybody knows what USB is. What's sent over the USB is MIDI, Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And what it is performance data. It's like a player piano has punch holes. Well, this is MIDI. It's electronic, it's digital data. It tells you what key is being pressed, how hard you press it, that's the velocity, how long you press it, that's the note length, and if there's any kind of aftertouch, where you could create a tremolo, or it depends on the hardware if it will deliver that, but MIDI supports all of those different types of MIDI data. It also supports other types of program control, so you can switch different patches using MIDI. You can back up MIDI data using sysx. Anyway, that's all technical terms nobody needs to know. But in my computer, I need a software, what we call a virtual instrument, to take this MIDI data and perform a piano. And in my computer, I'm using the built-in software in Cubase, which is called Halion, Halion. Halion. I don't know how anybody. I always said Halion, but so the Halion can be triggered to play actual piano samples from this keyboard. If I click that, I can get rid of delay. Then this is recorded, the performance, into the computer, and it becomes a track. So that's my piano track. So that's how the piano is done. The next thing that's also still a virtual instrument are the drums. I don't have room for a drum set here, and a drum set is really noisy and it's very complicated to get it all mic'd. And then you can't really edit it that easily. Where if I use MIDI to trigger drums, I can do stuff like quantizing, or I can copy parts. You don't have to perform everything multiple times. So in my software, I'm using what's called Steven Slate Drums. It's SSD 5. This is a virtual drum software, and it makes my keyboard trigger actual drum sounds that have been recorded as samples. So for example, the kick drum and the snare drum. So I'm able to key in a drum's crashes, and that will become the drum track, and it will play back the MIDI, but it will play back through the SSD and sound like real drums. Another virtual instrument are the strings. This song also has what I call like a string pad that runs throughout a lot of the song. And for strings, I also have a virtual instrument. It's the orchestral companion strings from Sonavox. And again, I'm playing strings, but I'm playing them from a keyboard. And the strings are recorded, they have their own track, and then that MIDI data triggers this orchestral companion strings plugin. Now everything else is recorded, the bass, all the guitars, all the vocals. Those are all from original analog source. So the bass I used, on this song I used my 5-string Warwick. These green tracks here are all of John's guitar tracks. I believe he used mostly PRS on this song. Now we can actually see the tracks here. Let me zoom out a little bit. I should say zoom out, yes, a lot. This is the whole song. So I've got drums here at the top. I can open the different lanes. So I recorded like kick and snare, tom fills, crashes. They all end up on different lanes. But basically it's one drum track playing, and then my bass, and then here's all the guitars. PRS, which he played both through the Katana, which is a solid state amp, and he mics it, and through the Axe Effects, which plugs directly into his audio interface and records that way. So these are all the guitars. So the guitars start here, and I'm able to solo just the guitars. There's a sound like this. Those are guitars. This is the bass. Bass, drums, and guitars. Pretty heavy. Here's the strings. So there are all the instruments. Next we got vocals. So these are the main vocals. These are Laurie's vocals.
How can you see into my eyes like open doors?
This is the vocal dry.
How can you see into my eyes?
And then this is with a slap delay, a dotted eighth added.
How can you see into my eyes?
And this is with a plate reverb.
How can you see into my eyes like open doors?
And so there's a main vocal. There's also parts where there's a harmony.
But a soul must
Harmony parts.
be up inside, wake me up inside.
Then we also have the backing vocals from Ben.
Me up inside, wake me up inside. Call my name.
I can't wake up! Save me!
Then with everything all added all together, we end up with our whole track.
Wake me up inside, wake me up inside. Call my name and save me from the dark. In my blood to run, before I come undone. Save me from the nothing I've become. Now that I know what I'm.
And that's it. It seems real simple, but there's a lot of work goes into getting everything really tight, getting the right EQ on stuff. EQ is how you make something cut through the mix. Different plugins that are used. I mean, for example, if I go to my bass, let me just solo the bass. I'm going to turn off the amplifier. That's my direct line from the bass. And that's with an amplifier. And it sounds like that because I'm using an MPEG SVT plugin. The guitar processing, I don't do anything for John's. I may do some EQ. Typically I'll add a little bit of 4 or 5K just to give a little sizzle on the guitar so they can cut through. I don't want them to interfere with the vocals. And I also have, if you look on my screen here, well, I think my face is covering it, but I do have a spectrum analyzer so I can if I'm soloing something, I can see what's the frequency response. So my bass, when it's running through the amp, it's got pretty full range. And the reason is there's a bunch of harmonics that are added by the amplifier. So anyway,